DeShaun Watson is still a story. You aware of this?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Maybe will be for months. So we'll be talking about here as long as it's a story. Subscribe to this YouTube channel and give this video a like.
Podcast below in the description. Subscribe to that as well.
After Matthew Stafford got traded, there was a big discussion about whether or not it affects DeShaun Watson's value. I think the immediate reaction from people that I saw on Twitter was, oh my God, DeShaun's going to be even more expensive now. And then I saw a fair amount of people saying, no, this is so unique. This doesn't affect DeShaun's value. My immediate reaction is it's a very unique trade. It does not affect DeShaun Watson's value. DeShaun Watson already was going to get you more than Matthew Stafford would get you. What do you think? Do you think the Matthew Stafford trade affected DeShaun Watson's value?
Maybe a little. I mean, the bar is just they got 2 1s and a 3 for Matt Stafford, right? But they also it's a little complicated.
There was like a salary dump involved.
Yeah, it's a little complicated. I think we've been saying all along that 3 1s would probably be the minimum. I don't think it's inconceivable or outrageous on their end to ask for 4 when you say other premium players have gotten 2 1s and a 2. Now, the more I think about it, like 3 1s and 2 2s, is anyone doing that? I don't know. You could argue 3 1s and a 2 is a shitload, but I got to know the first one, because if the first one's in the 20s, that means I'm giving them to a good team. Like, let's say the Colts are like, hey, we'll give you 3 1s and a 2. Well, you're giving me a pick in the mid-20s. Or early 20s, whatever it is, 22, 23. And then right away, I think you're going to be good for the next couple of years. So those picks are just going to be in the 20s, right? It'd be like the Washington team. I'd go, well, are we sure they're locked to be really good? Because we'll see. But they should be competitive. But I feel more comfortable going like Washington for 3 1s and a 2 than I would the Colts. And same with the Niners and Kyle. But I know the way these GMs think, and I think anyone listening just knows from watching them operate. 3 1s is these guys' lifeblood. I mean, these guys, Howie Roseman, the draft, and just the building up to the draft, and just Ballards and the Veaches, but the Schneiders, they live for that shit.
I know, but John, the other part, and this is not to say that 3 1s is what you should pay, but ultimately your lifeblood is winning football games.
No, I know, but I think it's easy to
getting
justify.
A franchise quarterback.
You often think about naturally things going wrong, and I think the Houston Texans are a good example of. They had some weird things happen this year, but DeShaun Watson had his best statistical year, and they won 4 games. And it's like, are we sure? That to me, if the Texans had just gone 8-8, you'd feel better. They won 4 games. And that, to me, would give me pause. And I'm not blaming that on DeShaun. I think he's an excellent player. For me, my top tier, and we've talked about this before, I wouldn't put him on that. Now I'd put him right in the next, like, I know you can make runs in the playoffs. But I think there's a lot of risk involved. Like, I don't think this is – and I think I would say the same, like, would I trade 3 1s for Josh Allen? I would. But I'm also not just anointing Josh Allen as some knockdown, drag-out superstar, right? I think there's only a couple players, that Aaron Rodgers, the Russell Wilson, like guys that I know, they just look at their track record. They go to the playoffs every year no matter what.
Yeah.
DeShaun hasn't proven that. Mahomes has proven that. Like, I get nervous, it's just factor in the picks. And
because if Mahomes was available, he'd go for more than 3 1s.
I know, but DeShaun has nothing in common with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, but that's
getting
part of
in the same year.
That's a big part of this too. Is like part of what you're trading for. And again, people do disagree with us. Sando's list had DeShaun as a tier 1 quarterback this year, which I disagree with. But I do think there's probably more universal agreement on the idea that he could become a tier 1 quarterback, right? Like, I don't think he'll ever be Mahomes, but
he's 25, high character. Besides, his agent's kind of a pain in the ass.
Right. But I also think if I'm playing devil's advocate, to go full James Harden and get traded, you might have to be a pain in the ass.
True, but he's done this. He did it with this Jalen Ramsey's guy, Dwayne Haskins. Like, he kind of has a history now.
I know, he would argue it worked with Jalen Ramsey. Jalen's in L.A. now.
Yeah, and I also think they got 2 1s and a 2 for him, for a guy that didn't want to be there. They got 2 1s and a 2. Like, they got it. I think we act like it works. Like, oh, they got him traded. Yeah, they got paid a shitload. Like, you're trying to get DeShaun Watson traded to where he wants to go, but the amount of money the team is going to want. Like, part of it is the moment Jamal Adams, for example, and Jalen Ramsey got traded, I think everyone said, wow, they gave up a lot. Even though both those 2 players are all pro level players, and Jalen's technically the second best player on his defense. Jamal's the first. But like that's a lot of compensation. And that's to Stafford, for position players. And both of them needed to be paid. So I think it's a complicated situation. And I also believe that the Texans are not like they're just going to take a massive offer for them to trade him. I just do not believe that a guy that's learned under Belichick, spent his entire NFL career under Belichick, is going to let this agent just dictate all the terms. And that does, if you just follow it on Twitter, it does feel like what is happening. Like DeShaun's in control. Like, no, not really. Unless the Texans want to just we'll just give him away.
I would say today he's not really. I would say week 3 of camp, he hasn't shown up. Dynamic changes a little bit. Now, maybe you're getting less for him, but we also know where the quarterbacks have ended up, right? Like, by the time camp starts, we know what do the Colts have? What do the Niners have? What happened in Miami? What happened with the Jets? Like, we have all this other information, right? It may be that, they want to wait and make him not show up. But if they wait that long, this is the danger, I think, for Houston. If you wait long enough where it's to the point where he's not showing up and now he's putting the pressure on you, other people might have their quarterback situation settled. Now you might have 2 teams interested, not 6. And it might hurt what you get for him. Now, the Raiders traded Khalil Mack at that point in time, but Khalil Mack plays a position that you could add him to any team. Quarterback is not that, right? A team that suddenly goes, the Colts, let's say the Niners. We got to the draft. They didn't have anything else. They drafted somebody. They drafted Trey Lance. Well, now they're out on DeShaun. That's not a team you can leverage anymore. If you wait past that point, right? To the point that DeShaun's holding out.
Yeah.
So that's where I think it benefits them to be a pain in the ass, because you've got to convince them well in advance we're not coming. And it sounds like the Texans deal is like, we'll wait and see.
Carson Palmer, remember, threatened to retire and held out.
Yeah.
He got traded to the Raiders for a 1 and a 2.
After sitting out a year. Did he sit out a year?
It feels like he did, but I don't even remember that now. Let me see the stats page. He played.
I'm not missing a year when I look here.
No, he didn't. I threatened
thought he did.
to. I thought he did too. I think his threat was. So basically, what happened is.
Maybe they played. They strong-armed him and he showed up.
Well, what happened is he did not report. Carson signed a contract. He made a commitment, gave his word. Palmer was placed on the reserve, did not report list July 29, 2011, after failing to report to training camp. So the Bengals had. So he didn't play early on in the season. And remember what happened is they traded him in the middle of October.
That's right.
Remember he played that like Monday Night Football game, or it was like a Thursday night game or whatever. Right. Had just shown up. So it felt like he sat out the year, but he just sat out a portion of time. And they got a first-round pick and a conditional second. Now, Palmer, former number 1 pick, had proven a lot. I mean, 32 touchdowns, 28 touchdowns, 26 touchdowns, had been at 26 touchdowns the year before, was relatively young, right? Was in his late 20s.
No, he got traded to the Raiders. He was 32. 31 to 32.
I guess he's a little older because he was a 5th-year senior and then plays 5 or 6 years so he comes in the league at 23, plays 5 or 6 years.
Came in the league at 25. Oh, no. He probably came in because he sat a year, right? So he might have been 23.
Gotcha.
His first year starting, he was 25 years old.
Oh, yeah. Right. God, times were different.
Yeah.
I don't envision looking at my phone in the next month and seeing they've traded 4 first-rounders, Team X, for DeShaun Watson. I just don't envision that happening. What I could see a team doing, we'll give you 2 1s, 2 2s, and 2 or 3 players. But you just know the way teams operate. No team's giving them 4 1s and a 2. I just don't see that happening.
I'm with you, but
I'm not saying that's right or wrong, because you might, if he goes on to be one of the all-time greats, you go, God, it was well worth it. For me standing here, I would have a hard time doing it.
Who did I see tweet?
Because I think if I told you right now the Niners traded 3 1s and 2 2s, I think they would get applauded. Whoa. I'd be like, yeah, that's pretty risky.
Yeah, I'm just looking. Somebody a reporter, I think, that covers the team wrote that they would want multiple players back, which again, what you would want and what you would get are 2 different things. But
they'd want, but
Texas.
so
it was McLean. Texans want 4 picks and 2 players.
So let's say 2 1s, 2
John
2s,
McClain.
and 2 players.
Yeah, Texans should blah blah blah. The Texans would want 2 1s, 2 2s, and 2 defensive starters in exchange for DeShaun Watson.
So would you do
Bosa and Fred
2
Warner?
1s, 2 2s, Fred Warner, and let's just say Jimmy Ward?
I think Warner would be the last guy I send him.
You'd rather send Bosa than Warner?
Is that crazy?
Bosa has a chance to be a transcendent defensive pass rusher.
Part of it in the moment, that might sound crazy in 3 years when he's the defensive player. It just he hasn't played a lot.
He played 1 season. He was awesome. I couldn't do that. I'm not giving them their next J.J. Watt and all my picks.
Kind of got J.J. Watt in the trade. So
I don't think it's a lock. At this point in time, I don't think it's a lock he gets traded. Now we'll see what happens with the other quarterback dominoes, but I think this could get uglier before it gets sweeter.
I'll tell you this: if you're giving him 2 1s, 2 2s, and 2 starters, I don't think you'd have to get. I don't think you'd have to give him Warner or Bosa in the end.
Well, you don't have any starters.
Yeah, I mean Eric Armstead.
Okay, yeah, I mean they would take him. He'd work. Kinlaw.
Ouch.
Well, guy, you don't have starter. Like, who are your? They're all Richard's free agent. They're all free agents.
I know. Sign and trade Kerry Hyder.
Do you think he gets traded?
Last time we talked, I think I said 95 yes, 5 no. I'm not any more convinced that he's going to get traded. But I'm always 95 probably is way too high, just given.
Well, what I would do for DeShaun Watson, I would give 2 1s and 2 2s. That would be my deal. If that can be the deal, I'll do that right now.
Yeah, but that wouldn't feel like it hurts that bad for a franchise quarterback because you got to give 2 2s, you got to give 2 1s just to move up for a rookie sometimes.
Yeah, I think the Texans will get crushed for doing 2 1s and 2 2s.
Well, in that case, then I'm rooting for his agent.
Would you do 2 1s, 2 2s, Fred Warner right now? If the Niners did that, they would be viewed as very cutthroat because they just got rid of Buckner and then Fred Warner, and Fred Warner was like Kyle's favorite player on the team. It's like, God, he doesn't give a shit about anybody.
I wouldn't feel great about that, but I probably would do it. If you told me that guarantees you get him, I get Deshaun Watson.
No, the deal's done.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good deal if you're the Texans. You get a star middle linebacker who needs to be paid.
John, that would hurt.
No, I'm not doing that.
The Warner part would hurt the most.
Guy, I pay my coach. I just gave him a 6-year extension, and let's just say $10 million a year. He's viewed as the best offensive coach. Even if I can't find Deshaun Watson, can you find a guy to draft? You're drafting 12 that can be 85% of them and coach them up and cheap?
I'm with
you.
That's
what Kyle's fucking job is. Andy figured it out.
I'm with you.
Figured it out.
But yeah,
Sean Payton once upon figured it out
with a generational, like everyone figures it out eventually.
But he had Alex forever. Like,
I understand. But he didn't win a Super Bowl with Alex Smith. Like we're talking about winning a Super Bowl.
I'm just asking Kyle to go to the fucking playoffs every year. I don't even go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but eventually it goes real quick from just going to the playoffs to okay, now it's time to do something.
Let's just worry about going to the playoffs every year. I mean, that's where let's call a spade a spade.
I agree.
I think the Niners talked about like a Super Bowl team.
No.
They've fucking been to the playoffs one time in 4 years.
Well, of course, there's no question they got to go to the playoffs first, but I know this. It goes from let's get to the playoffs, let's win a championship in a year. Because I think healthy Jimmy Garoppolo could get him to the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know.
The problem with him is that he's also not healthy.
Yeah,
So we don't need to debate Jimmy, but my point is just, I know this. What it takes to win the championship is consistently, more often than elite quarterback play.
That's where I would take my, do you feel Deshaun Watson's beating these guys in the playoffs?
I think he could, yeah. With the combination of Kyle and a good defense and this
Kittle
guy
and all
getting
the guys
better and just the basic skill set at least of a star quarterback. I'm with you though. It's not a guarantee, but I think you're kind of betting on the next step there from him.
Yeah. And I'd push back and say, well, no quarterback that's ever traded is like, oh, we're just going to start winning Super Bowls with this guy, or they wouldn't trade him, right? If the Texans were like,
that's what makes this. If he gets traded, it would be a very unique situation. That
most of the guys that are traded are like a Stafford or Carson Palmer. It's like that type guy, and you can have good moments, but for the most part, it's not like Alex Smith. Like not a lot of Super Bowl rings.
That's what I would be telling the Niners.
When I look at the Super Bowl rings, guy, when you look at the Super Bowl rings, drafted players. Peyton all those years in Indy, Tom Brady, Roethlisberger.
But I would here's what I would say on the if I'm selling you the Deshaun Watson cars, like I'd be like, look guys, this car does not ever come. There's like 2 of these. These cars do not ever come available. These paintings, I'm selling you art. This painting never comes available. This painting, you'll buy it and you won't sell it for 75 years.
He's torn his ACL twice.
I know. I'm just saying,
Once
like 25-year-old quarterbacks who people think can be superstar quarterbacks.
You're not wrong. I think people are talking
I'd rather
about
draft a
Deshaun
guy
like
too.
A little bit more of an absolute than I think he'll turn out being.
Yep, we agree there. I think most people in the comments, when they hear this or they start tweeting at us, think that we undervalue him.
I got a take for you. Let's say Washington football team, for example, with Rivera, who's proven can get to the playoffs, got DeShaun Watson. I don't think they're a playoff lock. I think they'd be good. I think they would be, a lot of people, they'd be a sexy pick, but I'd be like, okay,
they'd
we'll
be
see.
the favorite in their division, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but it's just like that organization, and we'll see.
Oh yeah, I agree. But I think he'd make them the favorite in that division.
You'd think.
Well, I mean, they made the playoffs this year. Their defense is good.
6 games.
Giants, Eagles, Cowboys.
I know. And the Eagles coach can't really talk.
Okay, let's talk about that. Yeah, we got to get to that.